about marketing. Because when you're busy, you don't have time to think. You're too busy working. And in August, I thought about marketing, and I also wrote an article, a post, which was published on the ATA Law Forum, which all of you read every day. So I wanted to give a presentation more or less on the ideas in that article. So what I wanted to present were my thoughts about how people choose professional services. I didn't say how we market, pay attention, how people choose professional services. And to a certain degree, how can we expand our client base by knowing what the client is going through. First, my background is I have 15 years experience. I translate 3 languages into English, Hebrew, French, and Russian. I happen to have an MBA, which means in theory I understand something about marketing. And I've written articles, I've given lectures about marketing. But still, to be honest with you, I find marketing translation a bit like the search for the Holy Grail. And what do I mean? I know the customers are out there. The statistics tell me my compatriots have lots of work and all that. I know the customers are out there. Not only that, I'm also able to tell you what customers are looking for. I can give you a full picture of my customers. And I make efforts, and like those brave knights looking for the Holy Grail, let's just say I don't always get the results I want. And this disturbs me. And in recent years, it's become even more disturbing because of what I call market changes. Most of you are feeling that if you've been around in the business for the last 10, 15 years, it's not what it used to be. What are these changes? First of all, we have conglomeration. What do I mean by conglomeration? If you haven't noticed, the medium companies are buying the small companies, and the big companies are buying the medium companies, and you're getting more and more international language service providers. That means less potential customers for you and the rates are going down. That's not new, and it's normal if we look at how business works, and it's not going to change in the next few years. The next change is machine translation. I'm not talking about its virtues, I'm talking about the facts. Machine translation is taking up whole niches. If in the past, let's say a law firm needed 100,000 words translated for internal use, they don't pay a translator, they run it through machine translation. A lot of sort of standard translation, which doesn't have to be read by really anybody outside the company, they use machine translation. It's much more cost effective. They don't need to pay 15 translators a lot of money to do it. It's not relevant to the purpose. Okay, social media. I look at the ages of, and most of us were not born with Facebook. Okay, if we look how customers are reaching us, there's a major change. Facebook is no longer just a social, it's a business tool. LinkedIn. How many people are on LinkedIn, have some presence? Okay, LinkedIn is a business tool. It's a business social tool. Instagram I'm not on, can't quite figure out how to use it. Maybe I have to learn that. It's out there. It's changing the business. In general, I don't really want to touch the subject of machine translation because it's a huge subject and I'm not an expert. Is machine translation, machine translation depends on the corpus. In other words, English-Spanish, the corpus is huge. French-English corpus is huge. Comes out quite good. The more standardized the language, such as legal, contracts, and things like that, where it's a very limited structures and very elements, it can be very effective in getting the main idea. If we're looking for beautiful language, no. But if I'm an attorney who I want to find out in this 50,000 pages what the hell is going on, then it works. The net effect on translators is it's wiping out niches because they don't need us to do it. And that's, not for public purposes, but for internal use, it can, in some cases, be effective. Okay, final one is training programs. What do I mean by training programs? There are more and more colleges worldwide training translators. Translators are coming out in their 20s, early 30s, looking for work. They understand a lot of these tools much better than we do, and it's competition. So, in fact, when I'm talking about the challenges of marketing, the challenges of marketing are greater than ever. So, I decided to do something. I decided to switch the board. Let me explain what I mean. Instead of saying, okay, how am I going to market translation? I said, how do customers in practice find a professional service that they don't understand? What are the criteria? What do they do? And the service I picked is accounting. All of us have looked for an accountant. I hate accounting, I have to admit. And I've had two of them. One was good and one is bad. My current one is good. Yeah, I'm very happy too. Now, why accounting? I understand what an accountant has to produce. I have to give my papers, and he has to I have to pay my taxes and pay as little as taxes. How they do it, folks, I really don't understand. And when I try to find an accountant, I have almost no ability to see whether it's a good accountant or a bad accountant.
Ask for references.
And we'll get to that in a second. How do people find translators? Can they know who is a good translator, who's a bad translator?
Yes.
Not. Can they? Maybe. Do they really understand our process of work? No. So it is professional service, which in a certain sense is similar. As a customer, the experience is similar. The first one is recommendations. Okay, who do we ask for recommendations? Obviously, friends, family, business associates, any other service providers. We asked, do you know a good accountant? It happened to actually in the college about a month ago. Someone said, do you know a good accountant? I said, yes. What does it mean for us as translators? Make everybody around you know that you're a translator. If they don't know you're a translator, you'll never get a reference. Now, don't say be obnoxious. Don't be rude, don't boring or anything like this. But if you go to your hairdresser and mention, yes, I'm a translator. They don't have to know your language thing. That's nice if they remember, but they won't. Remind people, you're a translator, in a nice diplomatic way. Insurance salespeople do this all the time, and that's how they get business. The other option, of course, is it's very simple logic. If people don't know, you can't get recommendations. And it's a very practical approach. Next one, please. Hometown bonus. What is a hometown bonus? Most people like to give their hometown an advantage. I'm supporting a local business. I feel better about that. If it's an accounting, I like an accountant who's close by because I can jump and bring the papers to. If it's down the street, that's even better. We like to give local people a bonus.
Baseball bats.
What?
Baseball bats.
Baseball bat. All right. So what do I mean by local? Same street. That's great. Same neighborhood. Same town if you live in a small enough town. Same region. I live in the north. I'll give a benefit to the people who live in the north, far distant north of Israel. And if you live in a small country, if you live in San Marino or Monaco, that's local. So, what does it mean for us? You need to have a sign. You have to be somehow known in your area. Now, I will confess, I'm still working on this because I'm trying to find an affordable way to have a sign in my area. And by sign, I'm not just talking about physical sign. I'm talking about a virtual sign, a local list of service providers, a town list of service providers. Something. If no one in your town knows that someone there provides a service, how can you get a hometown? Yes, you have to sort of find the local. Be local. Don't you? Even if you say, how many businesses there? I work with attorneys. Do you know how many attorneys, even in the town of Carmel, 50,000 people? I have a lot of attorneys. I would like them to know that there's someone in their town. Because that's a bonus I can get. It should make a difference. It's relevant because psychologically, most of us like to support a local business. I think it comes into, you're supporting your neighbor. I guess it's something old-fashioned. And it's a nice advantage to have. Why throw it away? Again, I'm still working on in my town trying to find an affordable way to do this. But it is a goal that I have, that I will succeed in. Some people have physical sign. That may be relevant for you, but most of us, I think, we need a virtual sign too. Right? It's that presence. I think Israel is a big country. I say local in a very general sense of the word. But yes, Israel is a small country, and be known where you are. Have a sign out there. Even if someone's looking for you, have a sign out there. Okay, pricing. Pricing is an interesting element because we make an assumption with pricing. It's not a correct assumption, always. Pricing equals quality. And let me tell a story. My wife and I were in Poland. We visited this beautiful chateau, and we were hungry, and there were 3 restaurants right by the chateau. One was sort of a low-cost, simple lunch. One was a medium cost, and one was a fancy. Looked at the menus, no idea what to pick. We assumed the low-cost one had pretty basic food, nothing to write about. The fancy one had good food, but was a bit expensive to us. We thought the medium was okay, the food was pretty good, and the prices were reasonable. We'll go to that one. Mistake. Turned out to be. What I'm just saying is, we made an assumption that price equals quality. When I go to an accountant says to me, 3 accountants, and one says, price is X, this is X plus 10%, and this one is 60% of the price. What assumption am I making about the one offering me 60%? Not good. New one, not sure. You understand the assumptions I'm making? Not necessarily correct, but I have no other information. The lesson is, do not lowball. If you are giving quotes, do not go low. Because when you go low, what you're saying is, I provide poor quality. That's the message. Okay. Oh, don't lowball. I see. Don't lowball. Yeah. Yeah, but you understand the message you give with low prices. I'm not saying you should always go the highest price, but lowballing will only make an impression that you don't know what you're doing, which is not the impression you want to next one. Visual impression. Most people are visual, and when we look at something, we make an assumption. That is, order equals skill. Let's give an example. I go visit an accountant to see what there, and the office is in a pretty miserable office. In fact, it looks like a warehouse where they put a desk in the corner and a computer. And I visit another office, and there's a receptionist, and I see all these people working, and it looks like a really good modern office. Now, I'm not buying the office, I'm buying the service of the accountant. What are my assumptions about which accountant is better? The office, not the corner. Yeah, not the warehouse. Okay, we don't have an office. Fortunately, nobody sees my office. I think many of you can say the same thing. But I do have an office. It's my site. So, keep your site neat and updated. If you have not changed, if you don't have a site, make one. If you have a site and not updated it, changed it, add something in the last year, you've got some cobwebs there. It doesn't look good. What have you done the last year? Have you written an article? Have you made a big project? Add something, do something. Does it look terrible? Do something to fix it up. We look, does it have spelling errors? That doesn't work very well. Make your office look neat. Oh, that looks like someone who's invested in a professional office. Our professional office is our site. That's the reality. Okay, first impression. I'm talking to the accountant. And most of us, within 30 seconds, decide whether we like someone or don't. That's the average. 30 seconds, 20 seconds. What do I want to hear from the accountant? I want to hear questions. What size business? What's your volume? What services do you need? I want to hear a summary. Okay, so as I understand, you need A, B, and C. Okay? I want to hear very clear numbers, costs. It will cost you this per monthly. This will provide you this. However, if you need to have this type of service, it will be extra. Fine, I got all the information. Now, if I have to ask these questions twice, no way. If the person is acting like let's talk about the wonderful time we had in the Army, that's not really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an accountant. I'm not looking for a friend. What does it mean for us? You need to communicate professionally and make sure all your communication is professional. Ask the questions, answer the questions, be precise, do not leave any. By any communication, I'm talking about speaking, on those occasions when you speak to a customer, but really important in writing. Don't write too much, make it clear, say what you have to say. If a concept is not clear, like target words, things like that, make sure it's clear. I expect professional communication from my accountant, and anybody looking for a translation expects professional communication from you. I deal with it because I guess my American culture kicks in here. I say, thank you for contacting me, like, I really appreciate the opportunity. I would need to see the document first, if I have some, before providing the quote. If it's a document, if it's, for example, if it's a birth certificate or any of that, says, is this directed to an official authority? If so, do you know their certification requirements? If that question pops in my mind. I avoid sarcasm, but basically I sort of say, I would be very happy to provide a quote after looking after the document, that's how I do it, and I think that's respectful to the customer. I don't expect them to be knowledgeable, just like I'm not knowledgeable in accounting. I respect their lack of knowledge. It's not stupidity, it's lack of knowledge, and that's not a sin, so I try to maintain professional, even if I'm not feeling professional at that moment. First of all, I never quote blindly. It's the worst, that gets you more trouble than anything you ever. And second of all, I don't quote per word, I quote by project. For the last 3 years, I stopped the per word element and I just quote by project, because that way I can figure out how much work this is going to be, how annoying this is going to be, and really how I give myself flexibility. And so I avoid that issue. I don't think giving your price per word until you've seen the document is wise, because there are too many surprises. I'll give you an example. I was asked right before we came here for a quote on a 99-page building inspection document in PDF with pictures, and you get the general picture of what's going on in that one. And I gave him a quote which I don't expect an answer from, and I said the quote reflects the amount of text, the difficulty, the technical difficulties involved, the QA, and I didn't actually give them a per word element, but I said what elements were in that quote because I didn't want them to have a heart attack on the spot. I think in certain cases where your prices are higher, you are justified in giving an explanation, where is this coming from, because people to understand that really bad PDFs, handwriting, and other factors have to be taken into account, or restaurants, all the other things we need to have price on. I'm going to go on here, do the next one. All right, wall hangings. What are wall hangings? When I go to any professional, I have a funny habit. I look at the wall. Does anybody know what I'm talking about, looking on the wall? And it says, well, they took that course, they finished this university. I look at the wall. And sometimes I see BA Ben-Gurion University. Okay, that's interesting. But then I see, their accountant who finished this course, I look what year, that was like 2 years ago, a year ago. Okay, they're keeping on learning. They're continuing education. That impresses me. Now, it's not, in this case, I can physically visit their office, physically look at their wall, and it impresses me. So what is proof of skill? You have certificates, you have courses, recognition, degrees, all those things you've invested in. So, what's the key to you as translators? Make these easy to find. You have a site, make them stick out. In other words, oh, I see this person is a ATA certified translator. How nice. Or this person is whatever your certificates are, whatever you have, make your wall hangings easy to find. Don't hide them in the corner. You worked hard. In other words, put that stuff out easy to find. Not that the person has to spend 10 minutes to find exactly where you came from. Okay, flexibility. Understand something that we have a primary job, we have secondary jobs. Let's just I'll take an example. I work with companies in Spain. Spain has the most peculiar tax laws. One of them is I have to prove once a year that I pay Social Security in my country. So every year I have to send a document to Spain proving that I pay my Social Security. This is Spanish rules, and when in Rome, you like the Romans. They request it. So I like my accountant because I can call up and say, I need this document. Remember we did it last year, or the first time. It has to say this. Please send it to me. And wonderfully enough, it's not part of their formal job. When I'm paying them, they send it to me. It takes them really 3 minutes to do. They already prepared this. They prepare it for us. In other words, flexibility. In other words, provide the services I need. I want my accountant to provide all my services that are related to financial management within their element. I don't have to find two people. So, here's an example from translation. I work with a Spanish company, and there is a very long-running, expensive case in England that requires 3 times a month me sending certified translations to England. 24 hours or 48 hours.
Snyder.
In other words, mailing the physical copy. I know this is what I have to do. And I have a good relation with DHL and the post office for this matter. It's 3 or 4 times a month, and I handle logistics. The translations are as simple as can be. I'm a logistics person, so I charge for the fee and my time. They trust me. Do you know why? I say, I'll send it off on Sunday. It goes off on Sunday. Here's your tracking number. I become a logistics officer. What difference does it make? They're paying me. And guess what? They're happy that they can trust me. Someone says, I have a menu that I want translated from Hebrew to English, but also into French. So, okay, fine. I'll manage the French part, so you don't have to do that. Be flexible. They want a little bit more, give it to them. If it's worth charging, charge them. Obviously, depending on the tax. Okay. So, be willing to go beyond translation. Don't sit there and say, that's my job and that's not my job. Maybe you can add services. Speed is a very interesting word. You're saying, I want it tomorrow. I think most of us have received a letter from the wonderful Israeli tax authority requiring something, and immediately our heart starts beating and we feel panicky. Not very pleasant. And what do I want from my accountant that I can say and call, I got this document, what the am I supposed to do? Maybe it's really nothing, but what do I want the accountant to actually do for me? Calm me down. Says, it's nothing, you have time, you have 2 weeks, we'll have the document ready. Thank you. I feel better. Now, it wasn't really urgent, but I was in no position to know whether it was urgent or not, or critical. When a customer says, I need something done urgently, first of all, see what urgently really means, but if it's urgent, allow for rush projects. Don't schedule yourself so tight that when a customer comes and says, I need something urgent, you have to say no, if it's possible. Don't kill yourself, don't give you bad quality. But if a customer says, I need something by tomorrow for a court case, and you can squeeze it in and you can charge another 40% because you're doing urgent, why not? You just got yourself a good customer. It's clear, I'm not saying an urgency you should do the impossible, because you can't. But if it's something that's really possible, and you can make the customer say, I need this in 48 hours, and you look and it says, hold on a second, it's 80% repetitions here, I run it through Abby, put it through a CAT tool, and honestly speaking, this will take me 4 hours to do. And you'll have it. Now, depending on how you feel, you can say, for drop other project type works, I charge you more. No problem, just make me feel good. Great, you got a customer. Why? Because we value service providers when we need them. And that is the best sign of, if you could do it. Serendipity, I like the word serendipity. Serendipity, if you will, is weird luck. Okay, you have shared background, and this may include acquaintances. You know the same person. Actually, in our accountants, she knows the clerk there. They went to school at the same place. Weird acquaintances, yes. Hometown, you grew up in the same town. That's really nice. That's an advantage. University, you went to the same university. I'm very loyal to my university. Have the same hobby. Oh, you also like knitting. Gee, that makes us close. I don't like it. She likes it. Make it clear. And finally, sports team. You're also Maccabi Tel Aviv or whatever the case may be. Now, are these critical points? No. Can they give you a boost if you need one? Yes. So the lesson is, provide a proper biography on your site. Who knows? It might get you a job, just on sheer serendipity. Nothing to do with your skills as a translator. I plead guilty. Number 1, constant effort. Marketing is not what you do in the month of August, it's what you do all year round. In other words, make sure your site is there, look for opportunities, make its constant effort to be out there. You have to have a physical and or online presence, obviously depending on your budget and where you are. If you don't, as women said there, remember her name, I apologize. If, as you said there, if nobody knows you're out there, you don't exist. It's really basic, yes. Create a good impression. Communication, your site, you need to look professional. You need to look, I have no idea what a good translator or band translator is, but this one makes a good impression. That's how we pick our professional services. Seek and grab opportunities. That is it when you want to, someone says, I need something urgent, or I really don't need translation, but I need this. Well, maybe I'll help you. Maybe I can find a solution. There's an opportunity. Grab it. Do you know how many lawyers are
Yes.
between Haifa to Carmiel? How many lawyers there are? Israel is filled with them, right? Each of those is a potential customer for me. Okay.
Exactly. Haifa is,
Excuse me, Misgav, which is Misgav is local. It's Moshavim. Lots of professional services. Lots of potential customers there. Within my area, potentially, I'm not talking about the general population, which is not my customer. In other words, my potential customer base there is quite high. I'm not general population, specific customers who might, on a given day, need a translator. And I think if you live in the center of the country, it's definitely true. In Jerusalem, it's definitely true. But even those in the south, there are professional services in the south that are looking for translators. There are companies in the south of the country. So yes, there is a population. How much you should invest in terms of your money, that is an interesting issue that is individual. But it's very hard. But if you're not there at all, and unfortunately I admit I'm not there at all, is not good. See, I'm saying it's something that I'm working on to find a manageable way of doing it. Because I'm missing out on business, and that's not what I want to do. Exactly. There are many ways, and they're really individual, how your area works. And I've been exploring, but I haven't found the right one yet, so I'm working on it. Anybody can read the original article that was written, or send me an email. They'll be happy to give you a link to the